All right, I think we're gonna get ready. I don't see any faces, so can someone chime in and just say you can hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Hear
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Thanks for coming on. I wore the same shirt, I think, not on purpose, but like I'm doing the presentation all in one. So anyway, we're going to continue off from where we were before. I think it'll also take about an hour. Again, if you have any questions as I'm talking, you can interrupt or you can also throw it in the chat. And then I will answer questions, as fit or as needed. So we'll continue on with the presentation. So communication. So at the last slide I talked about in the last one was showcases, and I talked a little bit about communication in that. Communication is an important piece. So no doubt. So there, I think if you listen over the presentation, there's obviously a lot of important pieces. But communication is always definitely one that is discussed, and I feel a way in which you can set yourself apart from other athletes and even other recruits that are being recruited by the same school. Um, it's important not to only to be a good communicator, but be prompt, be professional, all those things, and it's difficult, no doubt about it. Because there's a lot going on, but it's definitely a way in which, if you concentrate and do it in a manner that is consistent, you're definitely going to set yourself apart. I do have a couple horror stories and some good stories, but so I guess a horror story would be a school that a player was communicating with really high on their list, and high on the players list as well, and things are going along just fine. And then they found the player heard on like some sort of social media string that they had committed a couple players, and so this player reached out to them and said, "Hey, noticed you committed a couple players. Are you still interested?" And basically said, "Well, we reached out to you multiple times and didn't hear back from you, so we thought you weren't interested anymore." And so I asked the players, "Was that the case?" And she said, "Yes." So she failed at just responding to their communication, and unfortunately lost an opportunity just because they hadn't heard from her. And then on the opposite side, I had a boy that was communicating with all the schools on his list pretty well. It was using a platform in which I was able to see his communication. So I know he was doing a good job. But interesting enough that one of the coaches from one of the schools he was communicating with, reply all, and I happened to be in that, and they were actually talking amongst the coaching staff about how good of a communicator this kid was. And so that showed me, and I was able to screenshot it. I did tell the coach, "Hey, just to let you know, I'm in this string in case you didn't want me to be," because I knew they had done it on accident. But I did screenshot it and send it to the kid just to let him know, see this, it is something that they pay attention to. So being a good communicator is definitely a way in which you can set yourself apart. So in this, parents step aside and players stay up. Now, the coaches are going to want to communicate with the players, no doubt about it. But like, for example, my son was just sending out some emails because we're going to take a trip on Saturday to Indiana and visit a few schools. And so he sent the email, but I just pre-read it, made sure that, it sounded okay and stuff. So parents can definitely have input, but the communication definitely wants to be or should be the players. And an example being, if it, before e-learning and all that stuff, if the coaches were receiving emails from the player at 10, 11 o'clock in the day every day, then there's a good chance that player was supposed to be in school. And are those really emails coming from the players? Because parents have been known to be the one that's actually doing the communicating. So it's going to build character amongst the player. and the coaches want to build a relationship with the player. So they're going to expect some little goofs here and there, some punctuation things and things like that. But they definitely want to get to know the players, to make sure the players are the ones that are communicating. Use different resources, different styles of communication. Once you get to know the coach, if there's some correspondence going back and forth, there's nothing wrong with asking them, hey, what do you prefer? So that you can keep on top of what's going on. Social media is definitely an area where a lot of the coaches have the ability and have now taken added that to the way they communicate. So build that relationship, ask the question, and then use all the different types of communication necessary. Be different with the content in your emails. So an example of this would be, let's say you have, let's say you have whatever, 15 minutes of highlights that you've created, 3 or 4 different types of 2 to 3 minute highlights. One of your forms of your communication can be, hey, Coach Smith, just want to let you know I have this, 2-minute highlight video of a game we played this last weekend. And then your next email, maybe a week later or so, is, hey, Coach Smith, saw that you guys had a great game against so-and-so, keep up the great work. And then the next time you communicate, hey, just want to let you know, I took my ACT and my score went up 3 times, 3 points, now it's, so-and-so. So you're just giving some different content, and it gives you the ability to check in. And then you go back, hey, here's another video, because you have 5 of them. So you don't want to give, if you have 5 videos, you don't want to give 1, you don't want to give all the videos at the same time, but 2, every single time you communicate shouldn't be the same thing. Here's a video, here's a video, here's a video, here's a video, right? So the different types of communication and content in your email is important. Respond in a timely manner, like I said. Again, going back to one of the last things I said about a showcase, even if it's a school that you're not interested in or you don't know a lot about yet, still responding in a timely manner is very important, because again, you don't know where that coach may be. It's showing that our program and the players within our program is dialed in, and so we want to make sure that we're representing not only yourself well, but also the club. So be persistent, don't be a pest. So I always get this question a lot, how often should I communicate, things like that. What if they're not responding back to me? What does that mean? It doesn't, you really shouldn't knock a school off your list until you actually hear the words, or they say, we're not interested, or we rate some other players higher than you at this point, feel free to pursue other options, words that are basically saying, hey, not right now, right? But you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to send things every other day and, hey, this guy's not getting back to me, and so on and so forth. But allow for them to, understand that there's a lot going on with them. If you were to just send emails, and if you were to go into the email box, there's hundreds of emails that these coaches have to decipher through. So that's where, again, the different ways of communicating is important. Being persistent. I like to say, if you have a relationship with a school, about every 2 weeks, every 10 days, somewhere around that time frame, is being persistent and not being a pest. So this is true even during now. Like, we know that the seasons aren't like they are usually being played. From one institution to the next may be different, even at the Division I level. We know that the other divisions aren't playing any games. But it definitely slows down because they have a lot more responsibility. Even though they're not playing games like they normally do, because of COVID, even their trainings and the time commitment that it takes to get their players prepared on and off the field is a lot different. So again, there's still a lot of workload during the season. So again, if just because you don't hear from them, especially during the season, doesn't mean that they're not interested. Make sure your email address is appropriate. So all this is saying is, not like Albert has big muscles at gmail.com would probably not be a good email that I would send out. So make sure it's appropriate. Most people now just have their name in a Gmail or something like that. So that's a good one. Social media. So it's becoming more and more important, for sure. obviously we know and we hear about even employers creeping social media and such. And I believe I mentioned this in the last session that they even look at parents' social media. I'm sure you guys have heard stories, mostly bad, about people and players losing opportunity because of their social media, even if it's years in the past or something that you said. It doesn't even have to be something you said, to be honest with you, right? It can be that you were in an area, you were a part of a picture that was taken. We've even heard stories about, people posting lyrics of a person. It's not even their own words; it's lyrics of a song, but it's inappropriate for certain things, and people are getting in trouble for it. So you definitely have to use social media. It's becoming more and more important in a positive manner, but it is also a way in which they weed people out because of the things that they see on social media. So you got to make sure that everything's appropriate. I just like to say, my 2 cents is, don't necessarily offer opinions, just be encouraging and post funny things and enlightening things that show personality and stuff like that. But I would definitely stay away from anything political, religion, things like that. I know that there's lots of uh, I come from a Christian family and such, and you're reaching out and expressing your faith is very important to religion, but in many ways, it's also can be detrimental. So by all means, you can still profess faith and belief and such, but what I'm trying to get at is, don't be negative towards any other type of belief or faith or um, governmental type stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. I was kind of fumbling through those words. So I know a few of you have. I've said this. I know I see Chloe. I'm actually starting to get on Twitter a little bit more. It seems to be the hot one right now in regards to a lot of colleges and such. More and more are posting things from past because they don't have any current stuff. So schools are doing some things in the past, but um, from what I've seen, because I think I follow Chloe now, she's doing a good job at following schools. So definitely get on their social media avenues and follow them. A lot of information you can learn about them, their school, other players, and it's good to retweet or post some nice things every once in a while to let them know that you're still engaged. Okay, parents. Be involved. Remember, it's a player's process. So again, you want to make sure that you're holding your kid accountable. There's different areas within the process that you play a more of an important role. But ultimately, we want to try to build the players and allow them to, um, go through the process, ups and downs. It's not going to be all glory and fun, but it's going to build character. It's going to allow them to not only develop as a soccer player, but as a person, as a communicator, and such. So definitely allow the players to do stuff. And there's nothing wrong with setting goals or, like I told my son earlier, we're send out the emails today, which is Wednesday, gives the coaches a couple of days to process. We're going out on Saturday, so they can respond if they want, but it also gives us the ability to build out a schedule. So you can still give targets and goals and things like that, but kind of make sure that you remember that it's the players' process, not ours. Be ready to have disagreements. This is definitely an area where I can come into play. Players and parents, you can reach out to me at any time if there's some frustration or a disagreement or whatever, because there are going to be those. There's definitely going to be some tears for sure, but I typically have the ability to, have an open mind and probably have heard a lot of what disagreements might come up in your household. So by all means, feel free to reach out and allow me to try and help out if I can. So don't do all the work for the player. Set goals, allow them to do the work. So the financial piece I think is really important. So be sure you offer advice. Be transparent. If you do have some sort of plan, in regards to finances or a target number. I always like to ask that when I'm getting to know the player and the families about, what the financial plan looks like for them. Is it something that is state of Illinois regulated, or is it something that grandparents gave, or whatever the plan is. But be transparent with that with your kids so they know. There's obviously different, as my slide said earlier, the last presentation, the different costs of school, private versus public, and all those different things. It's very important for the kid to understand. And I'm not sure if I said this before, but the financial piece is really important, and so there are some different strategies. So make sure that you're talking to the kids and players. Make sure you're listening if your parents are talking about the financial piece, because it is a very important piece of the process. So myself, and then I put in the club coaches. So if it's a situation to where a player comes home or comes to practice frustrated or whatever, don't be afraid to hit up your coach and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Build relationships with the coaches, so that most of the coaches, I think, once they get to know the kids, will see that something's going on anyway, whether it be a disagreement with parent, or doesn't necessarily have to do the recruiting process, but hopefully they're offering up that ear to listen if that needs to be the case. So love your child. So they're making some tough decisions at a very young age, and so there's nothing going to be more important than to know that, yes, you may say stuff to them that they may not like, they may not understand, and all those things, but make sure that you're expressing love to them throughout the whole entire thing. There's going to be times where the player hears something that they don't like, or a school that they were very interested in tells them no, or whatever it may be. Your ACT score isn't high enough to get into a certain school, or whatever, right? So there's going to be different things. So just make sure that that the support is there in a loving manner, because there is definitely going to be some stressful times within the process. College coach evaluation. So a lot of times, some of the strategies are the coaches are looking for players to replace a specific player on their roster, right? So they'll say, you'll hear things like, we're graduating our all-conference center back, and so we need someone that's going to be able to fill that and bring some of the same characteristics that player may have. So you'll hear that a lot. So they may be specific in what they're looking for. So specific skills, attributes, weaknesses. So everybody's gonna be able to see the best player on the field, right? But what other things might they be looking for? Maybe someone that can has the fitness to play box to box, so they're covering the whole field from the midfielder's perspective. Maybe it's a player with a left foot, because there's far less of those that can strike a ball 30, 40, 50 yards. Maybe they have a really fast center back and they need somebody next to her or him that's really big and powerful and mean, right? So there's some specific things that they might be looking for within that player, based off of some of the things that they already have, or some of the things that they'll be, a player that might be moving on that they want to try to fill. Maybe it's based off of the conference that they play in, right? Very possession oriented versus powerful and strong and fighting, and air balls and set pieces are the most important thing. So it can differ from school to school, from conference to conference, and they'll recruit based off of how they know they can be successful within their conference. They are definitely interested in how things are going, how you react when things aren't going well. So we talk about body language and things like that. There's not an athlete in any sport that is on their A game every single time, right? So it's very important to understand that as a player. If there's 30 colleges on the sideline watching you, you have the worst game of your life, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be recruited. But how do you react when you're having the worst game of your life, right? What type of effort do you have when things aren't going bad? What's your demeanor when a coach is trying to encourage you, or maybe the coach is being a little bit hard on you? What's your demeanor? How are you paying attention to that coach at that moment? Right? Those are all these other things that the coaches are looking at when they're evaluating you as a player. And then the same thing, right? What about when things are great? How are they? How do you react? Are you disrespectful to the other team, or or do you carry yourself in a professional manner and respectful and encouraging to others and things like that? You can still be competitive, um, but be professional in that manner, right? So when things are going well and when things aren't going well, how do you react? How do you carry yourself on the field? All coaches want fit players. There's no doubt about it. Um, Watching you guys go through the scrimmages and some of the games that I was able to watch, fitness is definitely an issue because we haven't had a regular season that you normally have. I will tell you this: I've been around the game for a very long time and a bunch of different levels, and the fitness that you get within the club structure is not enough. You absolutely have to do stuff on your own, and especially when it's summertime and you're about to go to school. Or I work with a few college kids that come back from school during the summers, and I help them to try and stay fit because every coach wants players to come back fit. They'll have summer programs that you're supposed to do, and the reality is there's just not enough time for them to create a fitness program in the short period of preseason that they have to get them ready for the games, right? So if all the players come in fit, then that's one less thing that they have to worry about. That's the same when they're evaluating you. They want to see fit players. Talked a little bit about this, but I'll just say that body language is 100% judgmental, right? It's it. Someone's someone's looking at you, a coach is looking at you, and they are basing an opinion by looking at you, right? They may not know what type of person you are. They might know characteristics or how you carry yourself, or you're a team leader. They may not know any of that. But in the moment when they're looking at you, they're going to form an opinion about it. So body language is 100% judgmental and hugely important when you're on the soccer field. Talked a little bit about that, right? When the coach is talking at halftime and they got the board out, are you paying attention, or are you messing with your shin guards and drinking water and not paying attention to what's going on with the board? Or a coach you've seen many times, hey, Chris, hey, Chris, call you 3 times when you can hear the coach, right? Or the coach tells you something and you respond with a thumbs up, or okay, I got you, or something along those lines, right? So how are you reacting to the coach? So when we the coaches definitely get to see you play, and they obviously will ask questions about you as a player, but they're also going to ask like your personal attributes, characteristics of the kind of person you are. Um, like in college, obviously there's locker rooms, or high school there's locker rooms. How are they in the locker room? How are they as a teammate? um, Believe it or not, they'll ask how are the parents, because that's important, right? It's important for them to try to get a grasp of the whole entire person, and sometimes parents can be detrimental to a relationship, so they want to make sure that they are understanding all of that situation too. So um, they fully understand that not everybody has the same household and the same structure in the household, and by all means, we all come from different avenues. But this is still something that they would be interested in, and it does come up in communication when they're talking to myself or the club coaches. So when they give you an evaluation, if you have the ability to show them improvement in areas in which they talked about, that'll be very important. You can even be specific. Maybe this is one of the ways in which you communicate with them. Based off of some feedback, a month later, you can say, "Hey, Coach Smith, just want to let you know I've been working on my heading. Here's a video of just heading." and shows you on restarts, training sessions, whatever, working on head and showing improvement, right? So they want to see that improvement, and for you to show them that you're listening to what they're saying and you're putting in the effort to get better in areas in which they feel you need to get better in, and to make you successful when you're at their school. Oh, here, this is a good one actually. Um, they may see stuff in you that you um, aren't necessarily trying to. How do I say it? So they may see some things in you that are specific to what they're looking for in a different position. So even though it may be a position that you've never played or you're not comfortable with, or it's not your favorite position, they may see things that say to them, you know what, that's going to make Christy successful in our conference, for our team, for the first 2 years, whatever. And that may be the reason why they offer you the opportunity. So you have to be flexible. Can you be transparent? Yes. Hey, Michelle, you're an attacker. We have a ton of attackers. We play a 4-3-3. We want our outside backs to get up and attack. So we think that you can transition to an outside back. Would you be willing to do that? And you can be transparent. Yes, of course I would. I would love to. Obviously, I would need some help with it, developing as a defender. But um, if things change, or will there also be opportunity for me to maybe play as a winger or an attacker, right? So you're saying yes, I'll do what you're asking, but if opportunity arises, will I possibly have the opportunity to play a winger because I really like scoring goals, right? So you're still acknowledging the fact that they see you maybe being successful in a different position. You may have a favorite position that you want, so you agree to do what they're looking for, but at the same time, you're transparent and honest about the fact that you like to score goals and you would love to be a winger at some point if that opportunity arises, right? So, but be flexible, definitely, because it may change. Just in regards to formations, right? You may have to change and be a different player based on a formation change. So this is kind of difficult right now, but I would say when things are back to normal or somewhat normal, I say take the test early. I say take the test without any preparation if you haven't taken it yet. Taking a test without any preparation, there's no pressure. No school is going to look at how many times you take the test. They simply want to know what your best score is on the test, right? So if you go in and take the test early when there's no pressure, and it's not about I need this score to get into this school. Now you're taking it honestly, and now you can figure out, where do you need to improve, what areas do you need to improve on or get better score at, and now you can spend the money and the time and the effort to get better at those areas. So taking the test early and taking the test often, I think, is very important. Take both tests. So you don't know where or what school, they all have conversion type things, but uh, I have heard that some people take a certain test better than the other. So I think it's important to figure out which tests are you best at. So taking both tests, I think, is very important. Take them multiple times. Get assistance with your weak area. Don't break the bank. I think I talk about, maybe it's coming up. There is a company that I have used in the past. My son uses them. It's called Weathersby. I think I have a link here. It's basically a company that texts you a question every single day. It's a math question, it's a reading question, it's comprehension. If you get the question right, you move on. If you get the question wrong, they send you a video link, a YouTube video link, and explain how to get the right answer. So it's one text a day, and it creates an algorithm based off of how good you do on certain types of questions. And obviously, the ones that you master and do right, you'll see less of those, and the ones you get wrong, you'll see more of those. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's only $10 a month. I think it's one of many different ways in which you can improve yourself on ACT, SAT. But it's also a company that I will be using as a guest speaker to come to you guys, because they also talk about college admission exam applications and essays and things like that. So we'll definitely be hitting them up. So this is the name of the company, Weatherby's Unofficial. Again, it's only $10. It's not a contract. You can sign up and cancel anytime you want. Well, I guess I've said important piece, but I guess I believe that the most important piece is the academics, and it's true. The reality is every soccer coach wants a good soccer player. However, if you're not eligible because you're not good at academics or you don't have a good effort when it comes to the academic piece and you're not eligible to play, what good are you as a good soccer player, right? So it's definitely the most important piece. Now, it's changing a little bit, no doubt about it, right? I was just talking to a college coach earlier today, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, and they have changed their admissions process. They're no longer taking ACT, SAC, so they're test optional, which is another thing that's starting to be more and more common. So test optional meaning you don't have to have an SAT or ACT to get into the school. It still will be a factor when it comes to the amount of academic money that might be available to you, but a lot of these test optional schools base academic money off of your GPA and an interview and things like that. So it is going to be important, even though you might not be a strong test taker, or if you choose a school that is test optional and you don't need the ACT, SAT, it's still going to be important for you to have a solid GPA. Start strong or finish strong. They want to see a constant rise in the GPA. They don't want to see a drop off for sure, right? They want to see you're putting forth the effort and you're concentrating on school for all 4 years, just like they're going to want you to do when you're at college. So if there's any freshmen and sophomores in the presentation tonight, make sure you're starting strong and you're finishing strong. If there's juniors or seniors in the presentation tonight, make sure that you have a solid core classes and you're finishing on a high note. So AP courses, I have an opinion on this, and this is opinion, and I know there's probably a lot of parents that are far more educated than I. But let me tell you, my opinion is based off talking to some college coaches and players and things like that. So I think AP courses are important. I think honors courses are important, no doubt about it. But one conversation that has always stuck in my head was the coach from Colorado School of Mines, which is obviously a very high academic institution. And he tells his recruits that he doesn't care what their English or if they take AP history or AP Spanish or any of those. He doesn't care about that because it doesn't fit his institution, right? He wants his potential recruits to be STEM, engineering, math, science type courses, right? So if you feel you have found a path or you believe that this is the area or the path that you want to take, you don't necessarily have to kill yourself taking AP everything if it doesn't necessarily fit the path you're taking. Another way that you can get this information is if you do know an area of study in which you are planning on taking as a junior, you can contact a couple of the schools that you're interested in, talk to the heads of those departments and ask them, hey, if I were to try to get into your program at this university, my junior and senior year, what type of course load would make it so that I have a better chance, right? Do I need to take this course? Do I need to take that course? It may differ from one school to the next, but it's definitely something to look into because these courses, the honor courses and the AP courses, obviously are a lot more time commitment and such. And if you don't have to take it, then don't take it, right? So definitely think about that when you're setting up your course structure and such. Talk to your high school teachers and talk to your counselors. Make sure that they understand that your goal is to play college athletics. And my daughter has a story of a percentage point, and it made a huge difference in her acceptance into college and such. So create relationships with your high school teachers and talk to them if you're struggling and such. So high school teachers want to help kids, no doubt about it. So if you create a relationship with them and you ask questions and you go to them for help and you talk to them, they'll be more willing to help you for sure. Extracurricular activities are hugely important. So let's go back to the test optional institutions, right? So if they're not gonna accept you, or they're not gonna give you money based off of only academics, what are they going to be looking for? And extracurricular activities is definitely something they're going to be looking for. What type of things do you do other than soccer? How are you involved in your school? How are you involved in your community? How are you involved in your church? All these extracurricular activities they're going to want to know, and they're going to want to see you involved in them. So make sure you get involved in things other than soccer. Community service is something that you should enjoy. It's something that you should do to give back to your community. Community service should not be about, I need to get these 10 hours to graduate from high school, right? Community service should be, I'm fortunate to have this, and I know that there's people out there that don't. So I'm going to give my time, I'm going to give my efforts to try and help somebody that maybe not, may not be or have the things that I have. Community service is going to build character. It's going to build um, like it's going to build a strong heart. It's going to build like a desire to want to serve other people, which you should have for the rest of your life, right? So community service is definitely life changing if you allow it to. So make sure that it's something that you enjoy and not just something that you have to do. Build relationships while you're doing these community service projects. You never know what the future may bring, right? I have a great example of this with my son. My second son is a graduate from Southern Illinois University, and he was an athlete in high school, and he played different sports, and he actually took a liking to auto technology, and he built a relationship with the auto technology uh, head teacher, and they hit it off. And one of the biggest reasons was because my son was an athlete, and he typically didn't have athletes in his program. It was more of, the gearhead, so to speak, um, and so the guys that like the engines and got dirty and all this stuff. And here's this athlete that's coming in there because he's interested in taking apart things and putting them back together, so on and so forth. So that relationship that my son built with that teacher is like most the biggest reason why my son has a job 2 years out of college, making a lot of money, because of this relationship that he built with the coach or with the teacher. Got accepted directly into Southern Illinois' auto technology program, graduated in 4 years, had internships because of this teacher, and also got job offers because of this teacher and a relationship that he built. So that's an example of a relationship that he took advantage of as a teacher. You can do the same thing when you work in community service projects. Get to know people, and you never know. Maybe that turns into a job 5 years down the road. Okay, so so again, these things are changing, right? I want to think that when it's all said and done, and COVID is gone and such, that there's going to be schools that are closed. There's going to be schools that change their admission process, like Southern Illinois. There's going to be schools that do things differently. There's going to be, maybe money that's not available that used to be available. So lots of different things are going to change. So, this slide was obviously put together prior to COVID, but a lot of the information is still the same. So, if the school still is using ACT, SAT, see if they super score. Super score is you take your best scores in the individual topics of the test, and you're able to combine them. So you get a 32 in math one thing, and in English you get a 20, and then the next time around you get a 32 in math and you get a 28 in English. They'll take that 28, they'll take the 32, and they'll combine them for a super score, right? So that's what that is. So pay attention to that if it's part of the admissions process, and use that to your advantage. Look into the requirements for the different scholarships. So even as juniors, as you're looking at these schools, what type of scholarships do they offer, and what does it take to get those scholarships rewarded to you? So this is all trying to build and make college affordable. So if you have schools on your list that are private schools that might be a little bit more expensive, how can I make it affordable? One of the ways is by looking into their scholarships program and seeing what types of scholarships are available based off of GPAs, community service, all these different types of things. Get assistance with the application. Like I said earlier, this lady for Weathersby is definitely someone that's going to be able to help us with that. But if you have any type of ability to get help with the application process, get help. Make your application look the best it can be. Not all of us are good at writing. Maybe it's the writing portion of your application that you need help. Get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Assistance with the financial piece. I'm going to have a guest speaker be talking about that as well. But if there's I know just from hearing this gentleman talk, there's different ways in which you can move money around. This is mainly towards parents, if there's parents listening, but there's different ways you can move money around to different accounts that it's going to make you have more money available, or the application look a little bit different from a financial perspective. That's going to give you a better opportunity for scholarships and things like that. So definitely get help with the financial piece as well. Test optional is what I'm talking about. So make yourself marketable by those different things, community service and things like that. Okay, so College Fit Finder. I'm almost done. Gosh, it's been so difficult. So I appreciate you guys' patience. And I do truly believe, like I said before, that we're going to be using College Fit Finder a little bit more than what the staff before us has been. So be ready. But with that being said, this is what I want you players to do right now. Everybody should have the ability to get into College Fit Finder. If you don't have the ability to get into College Fit Finder, email me. I have login and password for everybody for College Fit Finder. As I said before, there's definitely going to be players that are on more than one College Fit Finder profile. As long as you have the one, it will update all of them. So just go into your main profile and make sure that that stuff is in there. So what I want everybody to have as soon as possible is a photo in your yellow shirt, which is most of you guys have already, the ones that do have it. Let's take this picture outside and just a headshot. So when I say headshot, shoulders and above. And all I'm trying to do is just make it look professional and consistent, right? We have some players that have some really cool pictures that are action pictures, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a coach wants to get to know you, and one of the ways is by just looking at your photo and recognizing you. And so it might be a little bit difficult to recognize an action shot when they're looking out on the field as opposed to just looking at a headshot, right? Plus, we want to be consistent. And when we print out our profile sheets and things like that, everybody's going to look the same. Yellow shirt, headshot, take it outside, not against the wall. The background is just outside, okay? And then get the basics done. What I mean by basics is name, contact info, height, weight, GPA, grad year, basics, right? You don't necessarily have to have a bio in there. Don't necessarily have to have highlight videos at this point. As we get more of these recordings and such, throwing highlight videos in there is going to be important, but at least get the basics done. I want to try to start to print out some profile sheets, even for the league games that you guys have been playing. Or, if we do end up playing in a showcase, I want to make sure that we're dialed in with that. So College Fit Finder is the platform. If you're not used to it or you haven't logged in yet, log in, do the basics. If you need help, shoot me an email. This is going to go over the different things you should be doing in the different years. Can you chime in, everybody that's involved, and let me know, are there any freshmen in the group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, you start off by getting good grades. Like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you're building a foundation and making sure that those grades continue to go up. So it's better to start strong as opposed to try and play catch up, right? So make sure your high school counselor knows that you are looking to play college athletics, because you have to make sure that the classes that you're taking make you eligible from an NCAA and NAIA perspective. So definitely make sure that your high school counselor knows that you want to play athletics. If your first semester courses, no matter what, are going to be lined up, don't worry about that. But it's making sure years 2, 3, 4 are lined up so you'll be ready to be eligible for that. Start looking at the different campuses. It doesn't necessarily have to be a school that you're interested in. A lot of times, similar campuses will look similar just based off of demographics of the type of institution. And things like that. So just start looking at campuses when you're on a road trip or family vacation, whatever. If there's a college in the area, just take a 5-10 minute drive around the campus and try and get an idea of the type of campus that's pleasing to your eye. Get involved in extracurricular activities. Like I said earlier, if you start off by doing it young and early in your high school career, then hopefully that just involves to being, extremely involved. And maybe it's by the time you're a junior or senior, you're president of a certain club, which is obviously going to look a lot better on your resume as well. Get involved in community service, build your profile, basics, So some of you might not even have your GPA yet. So at this point, just put NA, but start to build your profile, start to get an understanding of what the College Fit Finder platform is about, so that when it does become far more important, you're dialed in and understand how the process works. Watch college soccer. This is going to be very important. So I think I said this earlier. ESPN Plus, $4.99 a month. That's my opinion. The best way for you to watch as much college soccer as you can. You need to be able to watch the different levels. You need to be able to watch the different conferences, different teams, so you get an idea of style of play. You get an idea of characteristics of coaches. A lot of times we have a different, perception, or we think that we're able to play at a certain level without even watching what that level looks like, right? So it's very important for you to watch college soccer. We're also very fortunate to have all levels right here in the Chicagoland area. So when they start playing again, make sure you're watching. Attend ID camps, even if it's a school you're not interested in. Again, kind of similar to what I said about ACT, SAT. Do it when there's no pressure. Go attend an ID camp, pay $50, and play with players that you've never played with before. Play in front of coaches that maybe there's no interest, but you're getting comfortable playing in front of college coaches. So that way, when it is important, or when you are playing in front of a college coach that you're really interested in, the nerves maybe are a lot less because you've been there, done that. And then kind of towards the end of your year, start thinking about building a list of schools that you may be interested based off of seeing different campuses, watching college soccer, things like that. Okay, so that's things you can do as a freshman. And then consider taking the SAT. I wouldn't say consider, I would say definitely do it. One of the things that actually the presenter for the company, that Weathersby company, one of the things she said in her presentation is, I forget what it is, but it's very high. It's like 80%, maybe higher than that, of the questions that are asked on the ACT and SAT are actually questions that you learn by the 6th or 7th grade, something crazy like that. And the reason did someone chime in on there? Okay, sorry. So anyway, so a lot of times test prep is stuff that they're reteaching you, things that you have already learned. So take the test early. Sophomore year. Keep the grades up, concentrate on areas of strength. This is where you start to have an idea of maybe you're a math and science kid, maybe you're English kid, maybe you're all about the social side of school and you just have to try hard in everything to get B's or C's. Keep your profile current. That's very important as height and weight changes, as GPA changes, things like that. Make sure you're keeping your profile current. Build your list of schools and share it with your coaches. So you start to get an idea of your list into your freshman year, but in your sophomore year, building that list and share them, because at this point, as a sophomore, college coaches cannot talk directly to you, but I can have conversations with college coaches. Marcelo, Freddie can have conversations. We can say, hey, Sally is actually interested in you guys. Take a look at her and evaluate her. So by sharing it with myself and your coaches, if there's opportunity for us to talk to those college coaches on your behalf, then we'll definitely be able to do that. So communicate with the schools on your list. So obviously, depending on the level of where they're at and NCAA, NAIA restrictions, right? If you have the ability to communicate and they respond and it's in a time frame of your sophomore year in which you can do it, then do it. If it's early in your sophomore year and you know that the college coaches can't respond back to you, that doesn't mean that you don't communicate. That just simply means that they're not going to be able to respond back to you unless it has something to do with an ID camp and things like that. But you still can offer up good communication. You can still let them know this is where you're playing. You can still let them know that you watched their game and you enjoyed, this and that. So you still have the ability to stay engaged and communicate with these schools, even though they might not be able to communicate back with you. Start to attend camps at schools on your list. So sophomore year, maybe be a little bit more specific with where you're attending the ID camps. Going back to last presentation, make sure that if you're attending ID camps, especially if it's a school on your list, that there's communication, there's some sort of ability to let them know, hey, I'm coming to your camp, so that there's a star by your name. Start recording your games and create highlights. I used to say this is crazy, but the reality is that it's now something that we're definitely going to have to use. So creating highlights as a sophomore is a way for you to be able to show improvement, be able to show things that are your growth when you're showing the highlights as a sophomore, a junior, and then a senior, right? So if you're starting to record them and create those highlights as a sophomore, you're going to be able to show improvement in those areas. Keep involved in the community service and other extracurricular activities. And then June 15th, after your sophomore year, is that date that I talked about last time, in which they're able to communicate with you more openly. Junior year, which I think is a lot of a high percentage of the players in the program at this point. So all of the stuff that I've talked about before, if you haven't, I know a lot of you are still waiting to take the SAT and such, but make sure you're concentrating on your grades, community service, and extracurricular activities. Now is when you start to make adjustments to your list of schools. I'll talk a little bit about this from an individual standpoint, but there's no doubt that like I said before, the 2021 class and 2022 class are definitely going to be greatly affected by COVID and the inability and the dead period and everything like that. So you may have to make some adjustments to your list of schools based off of some of the information that we'll be getting when we communicate with these coaches. Consistent communication with those that are mutual interest every other week, every 10 days, like I said earlier. Attend camps and be more specific in regards to the camps that you're attending, spending your money and time wisely, making sure that you're getting an evaluation from those coaches, making sure that you're playing in front of the proper coaches when you're at these ID camps. Sometimes even at an ID camp, let's say, for example, Loyola's hosting an ID camp. Maybe they have 5 other colleges there, but you're not interested in those 5 other. You're interested in Loyola. Or maybe you are. Maybe you're going to Loyola camp so that you can play in front of a different school, DePaul, because DePaul is going to be there, right? So attend those camps and be more specific based off of mutual interest and feedback that you've gotten from college coaches. Take some unofficial visits. So this means that you go on the visit. You can let the coach know that you're there, all these types of things. A dead period right now, there's different things you can do from a college visit perspective, but the dead period means that they can't have communication with you right now, but that doesn't mean you can't still go on campus. Actually, Brooke texted me earlier in regards to they're doing like some virtual official visits and unofficial visits. I would imagine that a virtual official visit is not going to count against you on the amount of official visits that you get. But basically what it's doing is it's allowing the college coaches to be a little bit more active in your visit while you're on campus. So I've heard of FaceTime, you're FaceTiming the coach as you're on campus. They give you an iPad or you go to a certain link on your phone and you're walking around and you're getting a virtual tour specific to athletes. So there's many different ways in which the schools are doing these visits, whether it be official or unofficial. The other thing that I know I talked about before, but I want to reiterate, is the fact that if we have relationships, if there are TC players that are currently out of school that you're interested in, let's see if we can connect with them and while you're on campus, because if it's a relationship that you had prior to them being recruited or you're being recruited, you can use that relationship to have them show you around the campus because you guys are friends, right? So different ways in which schools are handling campuses being locked down or closed or less activity. So getting to know the different schools and asking questions about how you can do those visits are going to be important. So take some unofficial visits, especially during the college season. There isn't one right now because that gives you an idea of what the campus looks like. Watch college soccer and attend games. Again, you're able to watch some on ESPN Plus. local games around here, you have to be a little bit more selective. But again, just like in the earlier years, it's still important that you watch those games. And then have a goal to commit by the end of your junior year. I still think that this can be the case. I think it's going to be harder. I think it might be more towards the, May, June of your junior year. But for all you juniors that are listening, now more than ever, the percentage of committing in your senior year may go high for the next couple of years. So let's make sure that we're on the same page. Let's make sure that we're communicating well. Let's make sure that we're answering or asking transparent questions to coaches, being direct and saying, hey, what's it look like from a commitment standpoint? Am I going to be a player that's going to be, in the top of your list, so that you guys can figure out a time frame or have goals based off of the information that you're getting. So, but we still can have a goal to commit by the end of your junior year, but don't be afraid if you go into your senior year. Register for the NCAA and NAIA clearinghouses. All this means is that they're just making sure that you're on track. If you receive any type of athletic scholarship, you will have to be registered with the NCAA and NAIA in order to receive that. So junior year is probably the most common time in which players register for that. Senior year, so this is going to change a little bit, but with what's going on, but it's definitely, you definitely need to be patient, but it's crunch time, right? It's definitely a time to figure out why you're not committed. Are the schools on your list just too high of a level of play? Did the school scholarship get reduced, and so now they're not be able to recruit as many players? Listen to what the coaches are saying and figure out, why is this the case? Maybe you changed your major, maybe you got injured, whatever it may be. Concentrate on the schools that have shown the most interest and ask specific questions. So this is where we talk about, do you feel as though I'm a scholarship player? What's my playing time going to be, if that's important to you, so that you can make a good decision going into your senior year. Don't waste a good opportunity. Maybe the dream school is just not an option, right? I'm helping out another player that I was helping before TC, and I'm having a hard conversation with her because she has a scholarship offer and it's at a school that has what she wants to study and all these other things. And when I ask her, does she like it? She says yes. And then every once in a while I get a text from her, hey, what about this school? And I'm like, oh, like, you have to, like, she's a 2021 graduate. Like, let's, like, take advantage of the opportunities that are presented in front of you, especially when they are things that you are looking for in a school. This is another way in which you can get accepted. So I know there's a few seniors that we have in the club that I've talked to that haven't found a spot yet, a school yet. So applying to schools on your list, even if you haven't been told that there's an opportunity from a soccer, is a good tactic, because at some point maybe you tell the coach, hey, just want to let you know I've been accepted to the school, and I'm really interested in finding out if there's an opportunity from a soccer standpoint. Now that, in some colleges, the coaches have the ability to assist the application or admissions process. And if they don't have to do that, if they don't have to use one of their assistants because you've already been accepted, then maybe that opens the door for you. And then communicate like you've never done before. Listen to what they're saying, but communicate well back to them. That's it. Not bad. 8:03. It's about an hour. There's my phone number. Hopefully all you guys know it. Albert@teamchicagosoccer.org is my email. Hopefully you guys all know that. Do we have any questions? You can chime in and ask verbally, or you can throw them up on the chat. Brooke, did I answer your question in regards to the visits?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Did anybody go back and review the presentation for the first time? And do you have any questions from that? Okay, sweet. I recorded this one as well, so give me a little bit of time, a day or so, and I will create a link for this and email it out again. I'm working on, I got an email back today about email groups. So I'm working on adding players' emails to the email group, so it's not just going to the parents. So give me a little bit of a couple of days with that. Hopefully I'll get that done as well. Do have a question here. They're actually download. So the question is, are there any updates from this past Sunday's VO videos? They're actually in my living room downloading right now. So hopefully by tomorrow, those will be available. I do have to, if you, I know Marcelo and Freddie are moving some players around. If you need access to a certain team because you got moved, make sure you let me know that so that I can add you to the different teams. But they should be. They're gonna download all night, so they should be available by tomorrow. I was gonna go golfing at like 2, so hopefully I can make them available before I go golfing. Any other questions? Okay, if anything comes up, you guys know how to get a hold of me. I appreciate you guys' participation, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Welcome.